So let's talk about what we're doing today with Eliza's hair. So this is Eliza and her hair. As you can see, she has about a medium density, so she has quite a bit of hair, but the individual hair strands are fine. So I need to take into account what tools I'm going to use when cutting her hair. And so because of her finer hair texture, I don't want to go in with a razor. That could cause too much of a shatter on her ends and make it feel fine and like stringy. And I want to maintain her density while giving her a lot of texture, so I don't feel the razor is going to be the best tool to achieve that for her today. So I'm going to be using two of my shears. I'm going to be mostly working with my Artistic Series Design Zambia shears. They have a long point and they're really good for wet cuts. And then I'll also be going in with my Joelle texturizers. These will be more of my finishing at the end after blow drying. All right, so let's talk about the actual haircut that we're doing. So as you can probably see in the notification or whatever you got, we're doing a bob pixie today. So that's one of the newest trends that we're seeing in hair cutting, and it's kind of that mix between the bob and the pixie. There's a lot of variations of it. It was very popular kind of back in the 90s, so it's kind of getting a revived modern day version. The most popular ones from the 90s that I still get pictures of are Meg Ryan. Like, I always get the Meg Ryan picture, and Princess Diana. So this is just like that modern version where instead of having the really round and fullness, it's going to be a little more sleek and a little more texturized through the ends, not as much through the whole head. So what I want the back to look like for Eliza is we are going to take her hair up to her hairline, which I did before this video. We brought her hairline up about an inch to half an inch because she does have a very low hairline. So we just brought it up so that it fits more of what we're looking for in the back. So it's going to fall right about her hairline, and I want it to have a natural roundness to it. Nothing too harsh like a stacked A-line, but just a soft roundness to it that looks very natural and easy to maintain every day. And then on her sides, what we're going to do is I'm going to have a slight angle, or the front will fall about an inch below her jawline. But I want a lot of texture through the ends, and we're going to have layering up through the top, but mostly in the front, so she can flip it back and forth, and it'll kind of mimic a bang without being a true bang. And she doesn't part her hair in one particular spot every day. It does move. So we're going to cut it in a way that the hair has versatility and movement through it. All right. Do we have any questions? Anybody saying where they're from? Anything like that? Nope. Awesome. All right. Well, if you do have questions, just put them in the comment, and my awesome cameraman, Connor, will be, relaying those to me, and I can answer them as we go.
Julie Lounge says, "Hey, girl."
Hey. Awesome. Okay, so let's get started. Our sectioning today, I did a horseshoe around her parietal, but I cut it off right between the crown and her parietal in the back so that I can be really precise about how the volume looks through here. Because I'm not going to take the layers super short up here. They're actually going to lay farther down, but I need to make sure I work the interior through here to have a lot of texture. So this will be a lot of texturizing and just providing this with movement. So that's why I cut it off halfway between. And then I have it cut off down here at her occipital, so I can work down here to work on that natural roundness that we want to see. And then on the sides, I brought the line that we have. Oh, got a little confused there. There we go. I brought the line that we created halfway between her crown and parietal and just brought it right behind the ear. And then when I section, I move everything forward. I don't twist it, because then when I take it down, the hair will have a kink to it, and that could affect the cut. So I just move it straight and forward. I did twist the top because there's no way to move it forward without being in her hair, but I'll probably spray this down once we get to it so I can move out any of the twisting that I put in. Okay, so let's go ahead and work at her occipital. Like I said, we're going to be taking it to the hairline we created, so that is going to be very short, which is what we're going for, because what we decided is to have a longer front and a shorter back. So the pixie part is mostly going to be living in the back of her hair. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take about a half an inch section just right down the middle, and I'm going to decide how I want to cut this. I'm not going to go in and cut the perimeter first because I want my shape in, and then I will clean up the perimeter after. The shape is more important to this cut for me, and I can clean up the perimeter after. So we want that natural soft roundness that's going to curve, mostly starting at the occipital around. I don't want it too volumized. I want it just a soft, natural curve. So I'm going to put my comb up and measure Eliza's head shape. So you can see she does have a pronounced occipital, but it is quite flat. We don't have a lot of roundness back here. So I need to decide how I'm going to make the roundness. And by doing that, I'm going to take my comb and lay it flat on the head and keep the base of the comb at the base of the hairline and twist out until I decide where I want it to live. And I think that's going to go a little farther. So I want my finger angle to mimic the angle of this comb so that when it lays, it has that nice soft roundness that we're looking for. So let me get that sectioned out nice and clean. I don't want to over direct things to the middle because I'm not looking for a harsh over direction like an A-line, just a soft, natural bob. So now we have that angle, and I'm going to come in and just trim all this off. And you can see now we're creating a soft, natural graduation down here. And this right there is a little longer than I want it to be. Like I said, we are going to clean that perimeter up after. I'm more focused on getting the shape in than I am about having a nice clean perimeter at this point in the haircut. So Connor, I'm going to have you come back around the other side if you can. Thank you. I just cut on this side, so I need you on the opposite. Thank you very much. So now I am starting on my next section, bringing a little bit of the last section so I can see my guide through it. And I'm not over directing to the middle. I am pulling straight out from where it lives on the head because I don't want an over direction. Then I'm going to cut that, and I'm going to follow this all the way around her head. Again, pulling straight out from where the hair lives, not over directing to the middle. Oh, that hair wants to come in. There we go. And then I can see my guide through my fingers. So I'm just going to follow that. Perfect. And can I have you put your head down for me, Eliza? Thank you. Having the client put their head down is going to help get a better graduation and a crisper line back here because the nape does tend to bunch up. So if they're straight ahead, then we're not getting as crisp of a line as we could. So again, just following it all the way around. Now what I'm going to do is I'm over to the end of her hairline. So if you look, this hair is actually hanging over the rest of it. And if I cut this off, it would create a hole right there. So this is the part I'm going to over direct back because I don't want to create a hole. So I'm over directing it back to my guide. There we go. And see how it just connects down beautifully. And then it leaves a slight point there where I can connect it into the sides. So I'm going to spray her down a little bit. With her finer textured hair, she does get dry a little too fast. So I'm just going to spray it down as I go. And then we'll do the other side. Same exact thing, pulling straight out from the hairline until you get to that very, very end. Okay, squeeze in front of you. There we go. And then normally I do keep my fingers the same way throughout, but just so sake of your visibility, I'm going to hold it a different way. And taking about 1/2 inch of new hair and 1/2 inch of hair that I just cut, pulling straight out from the head. You can see my guide in there, following it down. And I'm going to follow this all around her head until I get to that very end where I will do a slight over direction. When doing these technical haircuts, it's very important that you are precise and you have clean sectioning between each of your sections and subsections. Because if you don't, you're going to get a variation in length, and that is not what we're looking for. So the more precise, the better. So see how I accidentally hit my hand and that actually caused right here to drop? That's not good because I have an uneven texture when I cut it. So now I pull it out. See how it bows out right there? We don't want that. So I'm going to go back through, make sure my tension is even, and correct that. So now I'm at the end where we have this little bit of hair that hangs over, And I don't want to pull that straight out from her head because I will create a hole and make it very difficult to connect into my sides. So I'm going to over direct back. And how far do I over direct back? I go to where the hairline stops at the very bottom. So I over direct to the end of the hairline at the bottom of the head. And then it connects it all down without creating a hole. So now let's go ahead and adjust our perimeter so we can make that nice and clean. Because we want a clean perimeter, but I was more worried about shape in the beginning. So you can see where it starts to get really fine right there. That's where I want to cut it off. With Eliza's hair texture, she does have finer hair, like I said before. So we want to cut it off where it looks thick so she doesn't feel like her hair is stringy in the ends. So I'm not using my fingers because I don't want to create graduation. And when you pick up hair with your fingers, like that, you're creating graduation of the hair underneath and pulling it towards you. So you're going to get graduation and elevation, and you don't want that. So I'm just combing it down so I can see it. And on the very ends where her hair is starting to curl, I'm just using my comb to hold it in place. I'm going to look straight ahead, make sure it's even. I'm going to check it. I always check my lengths because I do have a tendency to go longer on one side, and I'm consistent in going longer on one side, but I do always go longer on one side. Okay, so down here, I don't want to create any more texture than I already have because I want to leave her ends nice and dense, so she does have density on her ends. Where, like I've said before, she does have that finer hair texture, so leaving density is going to be very important. So we are going to move into our next section, and this is where we're going to create texture in the interior layers. Interior is inside the hair, anterior is on top. That's how I remember it. So I'm going to pull all this down and just straight down on the head. And this is quite a bit of hair, so I'm going to do one more section just for control. I'm going to cut them exactly the same between these two sections. I just want more control because that's more than my hands can handle. So I'm just going to flip them up. Again, I don't love twisting my sections because I find it creates dents in the hair, so I get uneven cuts. So I'm just going to flip it straight up and hold it up. Okay, so now, again, I start in the middle. And I'm going to look at my previous section and decide how I want to cut it. So if you look right there, you can see where my previous section was cut. If I continue that out, I'm going to make my weight line higher than I want it to be. And I don't even want to give her a true weight line. I want it to just be a soft rounding of the head. So I'm not going to continue. I'm going to take the very last top of the last section. And I'm going to not hold it completely parallel out. I'm going to hold it very subtly out and just point cut into that. There we go. So we create a bit of a weight line, but I'll texturize that out later too. But it's very soft and subtle. No harsh weight lines. And again, just continuing it around the head, pulling it straight out from where it lives. And I'm not going completely straight, just at a very subtle angle. So I can continue the rounding, but subtly. Pulling straight out from the head, mimicking my angle from the last section, and I'm point cutting. And I'm point cutting in this section because, like I said, this is where we want the texture to be, right through this middle part of her head. Because that's what she's going to see, and that's going to maintain the density on the ends, but still give her a texturized look. On the very end, I am pulling it, over-directing it. This is the only part I over-direct, and I'm over-directing it directly over the end of her hairline at this bottom corner, so I do not create a hole. I'm always conscious about creating holes because I have created my fair share of them when I started, and they are horrible to work at. And sometimes there's just nothing you can do. So see, we're getting that very soft and subtle roundness to the head, but just barely. And that's what we're looking for. So let's go ahead and do the other side. And again, I would normally hold my fingers the same exact way on each side of the head, but for sake of your visibility right today, I'm holding it different than I would. So point cutting in at the same angle, pulling the next section, and I pull a little bit of my last section so I can find my guide, and point cutting to create texture through this middle layer. Pulling straight out from the head. And then on this last section, I over direct to the bottom of my hairline as to not create a hole. Awesome. So now I'm going to go through and I'm going to check that it's even. And how I'm going to do this is I'm going to stand directly behind her and just hold the hair straight out and see that there's no bumps in it and that it's even throughout. And it's looking good. Awesome. So let's go through and create a little more texture. I like creating texture during my wet cut, so there's less for me to do during the dry portion of the cut. I always finish my haircuts dry, so I like to create this texture wet because it's easier. So I'm going to pick up about an inch wide sections and hold my hand about an inch out from the scalp. I don't want to go closer than an inch because I'm not looking to create volume, I'm looking to create texture. And I'm going to hold my shears open, not all the way, just slightly. I'm going to come through and with the apex of my shears, so where the shears touch in the back, I'm going to carve it out in like a C shape. So my hand movement is going back. So my shortest piece, I start going shorter to longer to cause the hair to curve under. That way it has texture, but it still follows the direction we want it to go. So again, holding it out about an inch from the head, and then using my C shape curving to create texture. And see how you can see I broke that up and where I went? That's what I want. I don't want to take too much out, just enough to give her some body and texture. So you can see that's where I did it, and that's where I have not done it yet. Ooh, excuse me, about to sneeze. There we go. So you can see over here it has a little more movement, a little more texture through it, where over here is a little just more dense and lays flat. So this would be more for your like sleek bob that you're going for, with really sleek and less movement. This is for more movement. So let's continue it around. Holding it about an inch out from the head and using my C shape hand movement to make it go longer or shorter to longer so it curves under. Because I don't want it to curve out, I still want it to curve under. Over directing the end in so I do not create holes. About an inch out from the head and just flicking out. Your shear should be sharp enough at the apex where you don't have to really do much as long as you just set it and flick. And you can see it just broke that up just enough so it has movement through it. Okay, so right here isn't curving like I want it to, so I'm going to pick that up individually and just very gently do it. And now it causes it to curve a little more. So that is a good trick to do if their hair likes to flip up. You can always do that to make it go the way you want it to go. Okay, do you have any questions or comments?
CE Vibe says love that.
Oh, good. I am glad. I love using multiple different techniques through my haircuts, so you can take all of them and use them in other haircuts. Like this isn't strictly exclusive to this haircut.
I will say, as the client, it feels so weird with that technique. It doesn't hurt or anything, it just feels weird.
Feels different. I believe it. Okay, so I'm going to continue the same angle from my last subsection onto this subsection. So I still am making it go slightly longer towards the top so it lays down. Because remember, we still have Bob in the name, not just Pixie. So we don't want it to come up here because then her layers are going to be really short. And I will connect some layers into the top, but at this moment I want to make it longer so it's not too short. So I'm following my same angle and just point cutting up taking my next subsection, following it up, and I'm point cutting through here so I still have more texture. Over directing the very end so I don't create a hole. Oh, missed a chunk. Oh, no, I didn't. Thought I did. Okay. Doing it on the exact same side. Going a little faster because it's starting to get a little redundant showing you over and over. Okay, so now we're going to do the same technique we just did where we use our shears to make a C curve in the hair to add texture and direction. So holding it about an inch out from the head, you can see how thick it is right through there. There's just a lot of hair. So when I do it, I'm really opening it up so it has room to move. I'm just doing that around the top of the head, and then we're going to do one more technique through this section to add a little more texture right after this. Because I am getting to the top of her head, I don't want to do it too close to the top. Like, I don't want to go any higher than there because I don't want little pieces sticking up through the top. So when she wears her hair down, I don't want her to have little flyaways from where I over texturized. Usually I'm doing about 3 per subsection, but that's just going to vary depending on your client. And again, this piece is kind of not cooperating and going the direction I want it to. So I'm going to pick it up and just very gently, because it's so small. I don't want to take a lot out, just enough to make it curve. There we go. So the next technique I'm going to do, I'm going to pick it up on a horizontal plane. And I'm going to use my comb. I'm going to use the wide tooth side of my comb because I want less tension for more movement. And I'm going to comb it until I feel like it's combed out enough. I had someone tell me once, you want the hair to dance when you comb it. So when the hair is dancing, I'll stop. Okay, so now I have about 2 inches up. And I'm going to cut directly up into it just to remove density through the ends. Again, so it has more room to move. I'm going to do the same thing over here. And I just go back and forth with my shear and my comb until I feel like it's combed out to the point that I want it. And point cut into it. When I'm point cutting, I'm not cutting as I get in, I'm cutting as I pull out. Because I don't want to go in and take too much out. This is a very soft technique. So I point cut as I pull out to take less hair. And see how the ends just have a little more movement to them now as opposed to over here. That's what I'm looking for. I'm going to do the same over here now. And I'm going in about 1.5 inches down because I want to be able to do it through quite a bit of the ends. There we go. So now we have her back cut, and you can see through all that, we're getting so much texture. And you just pull it up, and it has so much more volume to it. And then I'll go through here where you can see some of the ends laying too thick down here where they're not going together. They're sitting on top of each other like this instead of combining. I'll go in with my texturizing shears and get that out once it's dry. So let's go ahead and move on to our sides. So come over here. Thank you. Yes, look straight ahead. And I'm going to spray her hair down because she does have hair that dries very quickly, and I want to keep it wet through this technique. Okay, so now we have it all sprayed down. Let's decide where our length is going to live. We want the fronts to fall about 1 inch below her hairline, or her jawline, excuse me. So we're probably going to go about there. So I'm just going to create a little snip for a guide. I like doing that because I like connecting point A to B. It just helps and works better in my mind. So I have a little piece, and that's where I'm going to connect. So for this, I am going to use my fingers because I want a little bit of graduation through the front. So it will give a little bit of a flip. But I'm holding below. So here's point A, here's point B. I'm going to come in and hold my shears upwards and point cut into it like that. The reason for this is I want a higher tension, and holding below it is going to give me more tension. And the reason I want more tension is because I get more texture with my point cut when I have higher tension. Just going to go through and check it, make sure it's all good. Perfect. It's kind of a little jagged, which is okay, because you want that point cut texture look. I don't want it a perfect sleek cut. Okay. I'm just going to take off the top ½ inch of this section and do the last technique we did on the back, where I comb it and then go in and point cut into it. And see how my shears are kind of arching with the way the hair is laying. So the hair that's laying straight down, I'm going straight into. There we go. Just to create a little more texture. Now I'm going to over direct it back. Sorry. And make sure there's nothing that sticks out. So right there is just a little long. And this just connects it so it completely blends together between the back and the sides. So now we have that perfect line where we have more rounding, and it goes down into the sides. So let's go ahead and do the exact same thing on the other side. I'm going to go ahead and spray her down really quick. Do we have any questions or comments coming in?
Yeah, we have this red thing watching from Brazil.
Oh, that's awesome. I have a lot of clients from Brazil, actually. And it sounds amazing over there. Okay. So now that she is sufficiently sprayed down, I am going to create my guide in the front. Again, this isn't something you have to do. It's something I prefer to do because I like working between point A's and B's. So if I create my point A and B, then I can just connect them. Then I'm going to grab the hair. There's my guide from the back. There's my guide from the front. And I'm going to drag down so I have high tension and point cut into it, because high tension with point cutting gives me a steeper point cut, more texturized point cut. Just going to check and make sure there's no spots that are a little too crazy. Okay, now I'm going to take this top ½ inch and point cut into that with my wide tooth side of the comb. Okay. And just very softly. And now I'm going to over direct this back and make sure it all blends beautifully. So just point cutting into that section right there to connect any corners so that when it's down, it just blends perfectly. All right. So let's go ahead and look at the top since we got those cut. So I parted it at her parietal because I want to over direct all this up to create some layering. So I'm going to hold it slightly over directed back so the bangs go back and I can get some graduation there so I can connect them in later. And I'm going to hold all of it. It's kind of a lot to manage, but I'm going to do my best to do it because I want to cut it all together. So there's my guide from the back, right there, those tiny little hairs. And I'm going to point cut into all of that. So now I have it connected through the back, and it's probably going to be a little longer than the section on the side. Yep. But that's okay. So I'm pulling it from her parietal on the other side all the way over because she does not have a part in her hair. So when I cut this, I'm going to pull it all the way over this way and then do the same on the other side. So that it can go whichever direction she chooses. So I see my guide under there. Same thing, I'm going to hold it below where I want to cut and point cut into it because high tension will give me a more pronounced point cut. Okay, so now we have all that texture through the ends and a little bit of layering up here, which will connect in. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to sneak in front of you. I'm going to pick it up right down above her ear about a 1/2 inch section right above her ear. And there's that corner from the side to the top, and I'm going to deep point cut into that. And take one more subsection right over towards the back of her ear, but still over her ear. Following the same thing, point cutting that off. Now here's what I'm going to do. This is how I connect all of my layers, and it's my favorite way to do it because we have a hairline transition back here, so it's going to account for the switch in the hairline. So I'm going to take from the middle of the side and the middle of the back and create a triangle that ends right over the back of her hairline. So the bottom of her hairline is the exact point of that triangle. Now I'm going to hold it up, combing from both directions. I don't want to comb just from one side because then I'm going to create over direction. So if I comb from both, there's less over direction. And now I can see that's where it needs to be connected. I'm going to take it down a little bit farther just to double check. Yep, there's a little bit of a corner there. There we go. Now we can see it connects down, but it leaves all of her density around the hairline. All right, now I'm going to part it on her parietal on her right side and flip it over and do the exact same thing I just did. A little bit of a tangle. There we go. So I'm going to connect it in the perimeter, holding slightly below and point cutting. Then I'm going to take 1/2 inch section directly above her ear. That wasn't how I wanted it to be. There we go.
Safar Ali says, beautiful.
Ah, thank you. And deep point cutting that corner. One more section over her ear, but slightly towards the back of her ear. And taking off that corner. Okay, now again, we're going to connect the back to the front. We're going to go right in the middle of the front and the middle of the back. And the point of the triangle that we have back here should coincide with the very bottom corner of her hairline down here. And the reason for this is because we have a hairline transition back here, and if I were to pick up this hair and cut it, I'm cutting off her hairline and creating a hole. So this leaves her hairline completely intact. And this is how I connect all of my layers. Doesn't matter what layering technique I'm using, that's what I do. And I'm combing from both sides so I don't get more over direction. Taking off that corner. Oh, excuse me. Okay, now right here looks a little heavy. You guys can see what I see. Just right there. It looks like it's not moving how I want it to. So I'm going to go straight into it and pick it up and just point cut. A little into that. Not to take length, just to cause texture. So the difference between a point cut to take length and a point cut to take texture is a point cut to take length off is at a 45 degree. So if I hold it at a 45 degree angle and point cut, I'm taking off her length. If I hold it at a 90, I'm creating texture. So when I do texture, I hold it at a 90. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold it or move it straight back and just go down the middle. Because Eliza does sometimes like to part her hair down the middle. She likes versatility in her haircut. I'm going to hold it straight up and make sure everything's looking good.
Brinley Bollender says, good tips and tricks. Thank you for sharing.
Ah, thank you, Brinley. Okay, so it's all looking good through her layers. And I'm going to pick it up and just deep point cut at a 90 to create texture through this top layer. That way she has movement through the ends of her hair. And the reason for this is where she has that medium density but fine texture, it can get too heavy on the ends of the hair, meaning the hair doesn't have room to move around. So by taking out some of it, you're going to create more movement in the hair. All right. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick it up like we were in the back, and using the C curve to just pull out some of that hair, but I'm not going in her mohawk section. So all this is not getting point or texturized with this technique because I don't want to create like flyaways up through the very top of her hair. Just going through and doing that. Yes. So while I'm doing this, are any of you guys going to big event next month? Give me a thumbs up if you are. I am so excited. It's our first big event in 2 years. It's going to be in Vegas. It's insane. There's still a couple tickets left, so if you guys haven't gotten them, go ahead and go get them because there's some amazing hands-on classes from amazing educators, and it's just going to be amazing, and everyone's going to be there, and it's going to be in Vegas, so it's going to be awesome. And if you see me there, come say hi. Okay, so now we're going to create her bangs because we have nothing in the front yet. It's still very long. So she doesn't want a true bang, like I said. She wants it more of like a base framing that's kind of flipped around. Nothing like a harsh bang that's going to limit her to one style or one part. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to comb her hair down from the middle and pick it up and just see where it separates. So right there is where it's separating, and I'm just going to tuck the rest behind her ear because I'll blend it in later. This is just what the natural shape of her head wants me to use. So her natural bang part, if you will. So comb it down, lift it up. Oh, let's try it again. That one wasn't solid. There we go. So now I am going to go through and just make sure it's as even as possible because I don't want to work with something too jagged. Look down for me. Perfect. So I'm just going to go through and kind of pick it up and make it a little more even of a sectioning. There we go. Okay, so I'm going to stand directly in front of her. Whenever you cut bangs, you want to stand directly in front of your client or you're going to get an uneven bang. All right. So go ahead and look up at me, Eliza, and then close your eyes. I have my clients look up at me and close their eyes because sometimes they'll scrunch their eyebrows trying to see what I'm doing, and that'll make the bangs go shorter. So they get to close their eyes for this. So are we thinking probably a little bit lower than the tip of your nose for the shortest, or for the bangs?
Probably. Whatever you think will.
Okay, awesome. I think that'll look good because they'll have enough difference between the top from that and the perimeter of her haircut. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in and I'm going to over direct slightly. So the very end is falling over the tip of her nose. And I'm going to slide cut this down. And pick it up again, just check it, make sure it looks good. It'll look good. Now I'm going to do the same on the opposite side. So it's actually going to create a V, but that's going to make it so she can flip it wherever. So the very end is going to fall over the tip of her nose. And I'm going to touch my wrists together. And that makes it so that this hand is stable if it's sitting on my other hand. So I can see a corner right there. I'm just going to point cut that out and follow it up. There we go. Now I created a soft like V U shape. I'm going to make sure it's even. A little bit longer on this side, which is okay. We will just go back in and fix it. So over directing over her nose. There we go. Okay. So now when she parts her hair to whatever side, it will lay over as kind of a heavy bang either way. It needs to be texturized, but you can still see the shape that she's going to have through this top. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take it back and go straight down the middle and connect it into her layers. So you can see that corner there. I'm going to point cut that out because I still want it to blend because Eliza loves to push her hair back. That's how I want it to do.
Brenda M. Harris says, love it.
Ah, thank you. Taking that corner off. Okay, now here's my favorite part. I do this on all of my layers as well. This is one of my techniques that does gets done on everybody. And everyone in my salon knows it, and everyone does it. It's just my favorite. So what I'm going to do is I just parted her hair right down the middle for the sake of being able to blend it. And I'm going to go right in this front and right over her eyebrow. I'm going to create a small triangle that goes about 1/4 of the way back on her part line. So over the eyebrow to 1/4 of the way back on the part line, holding it directly out from the head. And there's point A, point B, and point cutting to connect. And this is going to texturize and layer your bangs for you while connecting it into the rest of the hair. Now I'm going to take my second triangle at the end of her eyebrow to the middle of her part line. So end of her eyebrow to the middle of her part line, holding it directly out. And you can see that corner there, point A, point B, point cutting at a 45 to take length, and then point cutting at a 90 to texturize. And you can see it starting to blend it back in. Now the last section, sorry, all the hair on you.
Yeah, you're good. I was just going to make you sneeze, so.
That's okay. So the last section is right where the hairlines meet, up to the top. Take that corner out, and then I'll do the exact same thing on the other side. Now, actually, I'm looking at it, and I see it feels a little heavy right there. So I'm going to pick it up and just point cut straight into this to kind of texturize that, because it's just too heavy. There we go. That's much softer. And I'm not going to connect these together because I like that C curve it's creating. I think that's super cute. Gives it a little bit of that French bob style. So we're going to leave that C curve there. Let's do the same on the other side. So middle of the eyebrow to about 1/4 of the way back. Connect point A and B, point cut. Beautiful. Middle of the part line to end of the eyebrow. Point A, point B, point cutting that off. Now end of the part line to where the hairline switches from down or from vertical to horizontal. And I'm point cutting that corner out. Now I'm going to pick up the whole bang section and hold it straight up and do a deep 90-degree point cut into that just to loosen up those ends and give them some texture. Okay, now we have the beautiful C curve and it just blends nicely in there. And I'm going to have you, Connor, go stand right in front of Eliza, and I'm going to stand right behind and show you how this haircut can now flip whichever direction she wants while maintaining that nice soft bang. So by creating that V, we're just allowing it to go each way without feeling too heavy. She has a calic right there that doesn't want it, but you guys get the idea. All right,